Merhaba Batı Yorum izleyicileri, kanalımıza hoş geldiniz. Bugün yine çok farklı bir içerikle birlikteyiz. Biliyorsunuz Nicklas dün Trabzonspor hakkında gerçekten çok güzel bir flört yaptı Twitter'da. Ve Trabzonspor belki de bizden çok daha iyi analiz etti bir Danimarka'lı olarak. Biz de hem Nicklas'la bu yaptığı analizi hem de onun Trabzonspor analizinden ziyade Kopenhag hakkındaki düşüncelerini ve Kopenhag takımını nasıl gördüğünü konuşmaya çalışacağız ve sizlere Kopenhag hakkında birazcık daha detaylı bilgi toplamaya çalışacağız. Biliyorsunuz Trabzonspor UEFA Şampiyonlar Ligi playoff turunda Kopenhag'la eşleşmişti. Zor bir kura çekti Trabzonspor, fakat Kopenhag da öyle düşünüyor mu? Şimdi Nicklas'tan bunların cevaplarını alacağız. Hello Nicklas, welcome to our YouTube channel. Thank you
Hello.
very much for your accepting our invitation. And as I already mentioned in Turkish, you have made a very good analysis about Trabzonspor. All the Trabzonspor fans gave a very huge respect on this analysis, and they got shocked because in Turkish media we cannot find lots of this kind of analysis from the Turkish newspapers and the journalists. So we want to talk about this time about Copenhagen. So yes, you know Trabzonspor very well, but we know Copenhagen, but if we talk with you, it will be better to understand what is the current situation in Copenhagen. And so thanks again for your kind reply to our messages and accept our invitation. I'm starting to my questions. First of all, I would like to ask the Copenhagen side's thoughts on the Trabzonspor draft. Yes, we know that we draw with the biggest team in the seeded teams, Copenhagen. It will be very hard for us. But what about Copenhagen sides thinking about Trabzonspor?
First of all, I want to say thank you for having me, and also I want to say thank you for all the kind messages I've been receiving the last couple of days from Trabzonspor fans. It's just been quite overwhelming. It's a big reception my little tweet series got. So thank you very, very much to all the Trabzonspor fans for messaging me the last couple of days. I just want to have the opportunity to say that. Actually, the reaction from FC Copenhagen has been quite the same as it has been that you just mentioned to Trabzonspor, because it was already before the match proclaimed that it didn't really matter who FC Copenhagen would draw as long as it would not be Trabzonspor. They were pretty clear that Trabzonspor would be at least the least favorable draw, the worst opponent. And FC Copenhagen's coach, Jess Thorups, also pretty clearly stated after the draw that this was the absolute worst opponent that FC Copenhagen could have had. He said that to local media on Tuesday. So no one at FC Copenhagen are quite underestimating Trabzonspor at this point. They would much rather have drawn another opponent because they think that Trabzonspor is a good team.
And we can say that the situation is both same for Trabzonspor and Copenhagen. And secondly, we know Copenhagen before. We have met them twice when they have named both Klubben 1903. And also we know them from Damendoy. We tried to get him around 2011-12, something like that, but we cannot get him. And after some couple of years, we got Damendoy. And also now there are now very good players at Copenhagen. And can you talk about the best players of Copenhagen now?
Yes, and Damendoy is also a legend in the FC Copenhagen, so the connection is clearly there. I would say that FC Copenhagen at this point is a pretty balanced team. They don't play with a traditional striker, so the midfield is sort of where it's all happening. They are dynamic and versatile, and offensively, looking at the attacking part of the team, the Spanish player Pep Biel is the big profile from last season. He was the biggest profile in the Danish Superliga. he's been building up to the role of one of the best players in Denmark at the moment. A sort of small guy with great dribbling competences, and also a good shooting foot, good at passing. He's sort of got the whole package. But I also have to mention a Swedish guy called Victor Claesson, who FC Copenhagen got. We managed to get him because of the situation in Russia and Ukraine. He played in Russia, and he's been one of the best players in Denmark for the last half year. He's a really great narrow winger. And also I want to mention Rasmus Felk, a Danish national team player, who is the key on the midfield. He's someone you would miss at first point, because he doesn't shine out from everyone else at first sight, but he always performs, and he almost never has a bad day, and have shown that he can really perform at this level. He's also made amazing performances against Manchester United and Basakşehir here a couple of years ago. So that's looking at the attacking players. That's the one who I would keep an eye out for.
I see. And when I checked the Copenhagen matches, the season matches, I saw that Hakan Arnar Haraldsson. And in your analysis, you have talked much about Abdülkadir Ömür, his skills on kolbastı horon, and also football pitch. I want to ask you about Haraldsson. He also showing great promise, and he has a future, I think. And what do you think about Haraldsson?
Yes, absolutely. He's sort of been one of the biggest revelations or surprises this year. He actually, your comparison to Abdülkadir is spot on in some ways, because he got some of the same features as a strong points. He was brought to the club at the same time as another Icelandic young player called Isak Johannesson, who was he was the big transfer at that point. Isak Johannesson, he came with a lot of praise, and all the biggest clubs in Europe were after him. So they got him, and they got Haraldsson at the same time. And people paid attention to Johannesson because he was the great prospect, and sort of not noticed that Haraldsson also was sort of as the same package, to put it, just to sum up. And it has been, and also those two guys, they was brought up together, and they were friends since they were 5 or something like that. So they knew each other. So, but out of those two, Haraldsson has actually been the best performer, at least for the start of this season and most of this year, and even in FC Copenhagen's bad start to the season, he's been shining. But I once again have to mention Isak Johannesson when mentioning Haraldsson, because when those two players are at the pitch at the same time, something special happens, because you can see that they got this very special connection. It's sort of like when the two Abdülkadirs were at the Trabzonspor'u in Parmak. Abdülkadir Parmak also was there. You can see that those local guys, when they know each other and they are playing for the badge, something special happens sometimes. So Haraldsson has been great, but as long as Johannesson is also on the pitch, he can really perform to his highest.
I see. And let's talk about a bit more tactical. Can you give us brief information about Thorup's formation?
It's actually tough to sort of say clearly how they are, for which formation they're playing, because in a lot of years Copenhagen were known for having just on paper pretty regular 4-4-2 formation, and they played that to perfection. But this year they, as I mentioned in the beginning, they're not playing with a clear striker. Actually, I heard a Danish podcast earlier today, where they jokingly said something like that FC Copenhagen are playing a 4-6-0 formation. Of course they're not, but there's something sort of merit to that, because they're playing with a lot of midfielders players that we know or know for playing midfielders. So they're sort of they got a lot of the strong sides in the very center of the pitch, and not playing. They got the possibility to play very widely, but looking at it from on the paper, they're playing quite narrowly in the sort of center of the field, and when getting to the last third of the match, or the field playing sort of more widely. So it's actually quite tough to explain, of course, as tactics is a lot of the time, but the exact formation is pretty up in the air maybe at this point, and I wouldn't be surprised if Thorup, the coach, is trying some other things in the next couple of matches and leading up to the Trabzonspor match. So maybe you're in for a surprise.
Maybe. And yes, they are defending champions, and but they started the season poorly. They got 2 losses, only 1 win, and they won the Hours game. Or
Horsens. Aalborg. Yes.
Aalborg. Yes.
Yes.
And Aalborg is, I think, on the bottom of the league table. So yes. Why did it start this season badly?
And actually, Horsens, the first match they lost, they were promoted, and also Viborg were promoted last season. So where they also lost to them. So actually, it's even worse than that. And yes, it is a pretty bad start to the season. And at least in the opening match against Horsens, they just really didn't play up to their best at any point. I've heard supporters say that it was disappointing and also embarrassing performance, at least from the first match. It's been a bit better in the last couple of matches, but still they're just not performing very well, and that's also why I said that maybe you're in for a surprise with respect to the formations, because the tactics sort of in the last 20-25 minutes of the match, they might not have all those surprises for the opponents to switch formations and stuff like that. So I think the coach Jess Thorups is having quite a headache these days in trying to figure out how to use all these very, very strong players he has on the midfield, and he also has strong strikers that we know. Strikers, for example, Kuma Babacar, who played for Alanyaspor a couple of seasons ago. Who has just not played up to his best. So he has a lot of strong players. He has a lot of possibilities, but I think he's trying to figure out how to use this in the best way. So the bad start to the season is due to a lot of things, but mostly the key players just not performing well enough. And we see this sometimes with in the Danish league, because it starts so early. So the Danish clubs don't have a lot of preparation time in the summer. So this happens sometimes, and they play up to the best the more coming in the fall and so on. But it might actually be a good time that Trabzonspor are meeting FC Copenhagen at this point of the season.
And we got 2 Danish international players, Andreas Cornelius, and we are saying him, name him as King of the North, version 2. The first one is, you already know, Alexander Sørloth, but Cornelius has performed very, very well, and being a key player in our championship. And we made another transfer this season, and we got Jens Striger Larsen, and he played a very good match against Sivasspor. He fits our right back quickly. These kind of players, Danish players, and they are already know Copenhagen. What advantages we can have against Copenhagen when we have these 2?
Especially Andreas Cornelius, of course, knows FC Copenhagen very well. He's a local lad, and he's been brought up through their youth team, and he's Yeah, I think I say he's already, although he's still quite young in that regard, he's already a legend at FC Copenhagen, and he's always welcome back at the club. So, and he knows the people at the club, so he knows FC Copenhagen very well. And I would be very surprised if he's not watching all of the matches too. Jens Striker is a very solid performer. He's also not the guy that you would notice at first and notice in every match, but you know what you get from Jens Striker all the time. He's just a very high performer and never falling through the roof, so to speak. And he, of course, also knows FC Copenhagen. It's been a while. And a much longer time since he's been in the best Danish league, but the community in Denmark, the football community, is so small, and FC Copenhagen is such a big club that everyone in Denmark, of course, knows the club and how the club plays and sort of like that. And also Jens knows some of the FC Copenhagen players from the national team, of course. So, and on the other hand, FC Copenhagen won't know that much about Trabzonspor, even though they have Paul Mokairo and Kuma Babakar, who of course played for Antalyaspor and Alanyaspor respectively. So they know some things about Trabzonspor, but in Cornelius, you sort of have a lot of knowledge about what FC Copenhagen stands for and how they play and stuff like that. And even though it's been still a couple of years since Cornelius was at FC Copenhagen last time, they're still playing with the same sort of core and key points in building the play up from scratch and sort of like that. So it can be both on the pitch and from his knowledge of the pitch, a very strong point in having Andreas Cornelius on the team.
And lastly, and finally, who do you think is the favorite of the draw, Trabzonspor or Copenhagen?
I think you'll be happy because I think pretty clearly it should be Trabzonspor who is the favorite. I don't think it's a very, very big favorite, but still big enough so that you should have sort of like 55 or 60% chance of beating FC Copenhagen in 2 matches. So, and that's also what the Danish media and FC Copenhagen are saying, that Trabzonspor is the small favorite. Yes.
Yes. And Nicklas, thank you very much for your participation and sincerity. It was a great pleasure for us to having you and on our channel. And we can hope that we can meet in the new videos, and maybe if we got new Danish players, we can knock you and get the information from you. And also maybe after the draw, we can have another video if you want. Thanks again for your kind help to us.
Absolutely. You're always welcome, and thank you for having me.
Evet arkadaşlar, Nicklas Degn ile yaptığımız röportajın sonuna geldik. Kopenhag hakkında bize çok güzel bilgiler verdi. Kendisine tekrar Türkçe'de teşekkür ediyorum. İnşallah bu videoyu beğenirsiniz. Videoyu beğenmeyi, kanala abone olmayı ve bu video hakkında görüşlerinizi yoruma bırakmayı unutmayın. Trabzonspor için inşallah Kopenhag kurası çok iyi bir şekilde geçer ve Şampiyonlar Ligi'ne doğrudan katılma şansı elde ederiz ve gruplardan gelecek o geliri Kopenhag değil biz cebimize koyarız. İzlediğiniz için teşekkürler. Görüşmek üzere.